You're listening to Inspired Marketing, a podcast series that uncovers real experiences and inspirational stories from marketing leaders that are transforming the way marketing is done today. Brought to you by Relationship One, the Oracle Marketing Cloud's only exclusive SI and best practices consulting partner. Here's your host, Scott Ingram.
Today on the Inspired Marketing Podcast, we're joined by Richard Flaherty, who is the Global Director of Marketing Services at PerkinElmer. Welcome to the show, Richard.
Thank you, Scott. Pleasure to be here.
Well, glad you're here too. We're going to talk a little bit about, I think this will be a wide-ranging conversation. We're going to talk about some of the foundational work that you guys have done and aligning your stack. And we're going to talk about really moving to a more automated space and a little bit on analytics and reporting. So before we go down that rabbit hole, tell us just a little bit about yourself, your role, and PerkinElmer.
Sure. So actually, myself, I actually started my career in manufacturing. So probably a big leap from where I am today. I actually worked with Bic Corporation making pens, lots of pens. So that was years ago. And then I've moved into various operational roles and then more into marketing operations and different marketing roles. So I've kind of played a lot of different areas. And at PerkinElmer, I started in my current role, which is Director of Marketing Services 3 years ago. And we really focus on three primary areas. It's managing our marketing stack, it's analytics, and then really the digital campaign execution. So that's where our team really contributes. And I've been with PerkinElmer actually for 6 years. Part of an acquisition that started the informatics division. So total, I've been with the organization for 17 years. A little bit about PerkinElmer. So PerkinElmer is a global leader committed to innovating for a healthier world. We've got about $2.1 billion in annual revenue and about 9,000 employees. And the capabilities are focused on areas like detection, imaging, informatics, and services. And what does that mean, of course? So just a few quick examples. Some of the things our technologies do is newborn screening. So we screen over 560 million babies worldwide for a variety of life-threatening diseases. Other examples is instrumentation to test water. So we test 289 billion gallons of water to help ensure safe drinking water for about 1 billion people. And in 2016, we analyzed 220 million tons of wheat to try to ensure quality in the global supply chain.
Well, I certainly learned some things in that. So thanks for sharing that with us. So
it's good to be part of, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we start with just kind of the overall idea of aligning your tech stack? What does that mean? How have you approached that? And what have you kind of found in that process?
Sure. Yeah. So we spent a fair amount of time, probably over the last year and a half, just number one, inventorying our stack, right? What do we have? A larger organization, sometimes you grow through acquisition and that you have different business units, right? It can get complex. So one of the initial ideas was just let's make sure we fully understand what we're utilizing today. And you start to learn a bit about, what's happening in different areas. You got different regions. So we spent a fair amount of time just documenting the stack, putting it together, reaching out to the different stakeholders to make sure we had a full understanding of what's in place. And then we said, we got to align it. What's our plan? We didn't necessarily have a complete roadmap at the time, but we could at least start to identify certain areas of overlap, right? You have multiple systems that do similar tasks, or you have a system that's really used for a very specific person, but heavily underutilized compared to what it's costing you to complete the implementation on time, achieve that level of automation, and really we still achieved our results, but we had to do it in a different way, and we're able to do it quite quickly and successfully.
Excellent. Now let's talk about the other end and kind of what you're seeing from both a results perspective, but also what you're doing with the data from an analytics and reporting perspective.
Sure. Yeah. The results, one of the key results was just, again, putting that A in automation as we're calling it. And today we're, I would say, probably 99% automated. There's still a few little areas, with some maybe a particular area of a business unit that has slightly different needs, that we do a little bit of manual intervention, but for the most part, we're there. So that was very successful. We're very happy with it. Like I said, 99%. So what that's really allowed to do is reassign some resources to more impactful projects and tasks, right? Anytime you're spending effort manually intercepting any kind of data, and then having a manual process, it's just not adding as much value. So the people that were doing that now really stepped up into really supporting our vision going forward and some of the more complex and advanced features of our marketing automation. So that's been very successful. We're very happy with that. The other kind of things that a little bit harder to measure, but just improved accuracy, right? Anytime you add some manual process into it, your accuracy of your data starts to go down. So having all that automation, we're just seeing much cleaner data flowing through, so that just supports everything down the road. Any downstream process is now better, right? The ability for it to route properly is better. Your ability to target is better. So that's been a huge win in my mind. And things like the washing machine come into play there, right, within Eloqua. So all these features and advanced functionality within Eloqua have allowed us to really move the needle in a lot of these areas. The other thing I think we've been able to do, it's we're doing it at a similar time, but it really defining our analytics. So one of the problems I think many organizations have is lots of different dashboards, lots of different reports. And, everyone, if you go into Salesforce, everyone can create their own dashboard, and you often end up with many, many, many versions, and none of them match, right? So as we're working through our marketing automation, we also put a lot of effort onto really defining our analytics, talk about things like data dictionaries. How are we going to measure each of these KPIs? And we built the standards. We built them. We've all agreed upon them with all our stakeholders. And then we've also implemented specific dashboards where people can go to get them. And the way we've accomplished that, which we've found quite successful, is moving all of our key data into a data warehouse. So, our CRM data is flowing in there. Our cost management data for our campaign costs is flowing in there. So now we have a visualization package that can sit on top of that data, where you can get your insights, get your analytics, and also help enforce your standards. So what are your reporting standards? So we found that quite successful. We have a long way to go, we believe. All right, it's the first big step, so we're excited about the future on it. But we found that the ability to get the reports and the standards very successful.
Excellent. As you called out before we started, if anybody wants to dig a little bit deeper into that kind of data warehousing approach to analytics, we had a great conversation with Matt Calnan at Medtronic about that in an earlier episode. So you may want to go check that out. So Richard, you mentioned some of the advanced functionality that you're starting to take advantage of. Why don't we use that to talk about some of the things that you're starting to do now and into the future to really maximize your use of some of these platforms?
Yes, good point. So, like when you originally mentioned, we're setting that foundation and really getting automated. At the same time, we said, okay, what are some of the key areas and features within Eloqua that we're interested in? We might not be fully ready to deploy them, but let's at least start piloting them. So we piloted several of the features, and I would say the two most impactful, we believe, are going to be the nurturing capabilities and lead scoring. So we piloted both those, among other things. And we've actually also introduced, I think, our first 4 nurture campaigns, which we're excited about. It's still a little bit moving from pilot to fully operational. We know we still need to make a step forward. And we're hoping to very soon really fully implement some of the lead scoring functionality. And the piloting, we really like, you start to really think about how you're handling your email marketing, right? Many companies still do the batch and blast, really get you much more targeted, much more based on the customer journey. So we're really excited about where that's going and looking forward to continue to develop that program.
Yeah, exciting. Well, it's fun to watch that journey and be a part of that journey with you. For you personally, are there tools or apps that you feel like you can't live without beyond kind of what's in the company's marketing tech stack?
Well, I guess the tool I do feel like it is part of our stack, but we use a system called Spotfire. It's a visualization package, similar to like a Tableau, and I've been using it for quite some time, and it's interesting. I feel like that's one of the first things I open every day now, and in order to just get into the data and understand it and analyze it. I'm kind of just an analytical person. I can't quite help myself. And it's really interesting to hear some people talk about how their ability to use Excel to get their insights, and they're just Excel nuts. And I'm realizing I'm forgetting how to actually use Excel because I go right to this much more advanced package, and it's amazing what you can do with it, and how you can look at the data and slice it and get some insights. The other one is interesting. I'm not certain it's can't live without it yet, but I'm really enjoying the Apple CarPlay that I got recently. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but I spend far too much time in the car with a fairly long commute. So the ability to get into your podcast, for instance, right while I'm in the car has been fantastic. Just much easier, and I'm really enjoying that. I could see that being one of my critical apps, if you will, or tools to make my commute more productive.
Very cool. I have the wrong brand of car to have Apple CarPlay, but that's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Well, Richard, as you know, being a listener to the show, we call it Inspired Marketing, and our last question is always, what is it that inspires you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been thinking about that because there's certainly a few things. I definitely would say the team here at PerkinElmer, particularly in the digital marketing team and marketing services. You go through an implementation like we have over to Eloqua, and it can be quite challenging, right? You're still trying to get the day-to-day work done and still trying to execute your campaign. So balancing just a level of dedication, the ability to continue to move the needle during that process is pretty amazing. That they're just dedicated. We get it done. I know it can be frustrating at times dealing with both the migration and operational activities, but that's really inspiring to see how everyone steps up and is able to really make projects successful. And honestly, the other one I think is just my family, and my wife and my two daughters. When I think about what it was like when I was growing up, and seemed much simpler. So you get two teenage daughters and what they have to deal with growing up these days, and how they're able to adapt and enjoy things is actually pretty inspiring to me.
Yeah, absolutely. As the father of two daughters myself, I can certainly attest to that. It's a different world, and there's a lot to it. I think parenting is a little bit more challenging too.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, no question.
Awesome. Well, Richard, thank you so much for your time. This has been fantastic.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Marketing, brought to you by Relationship One. Tell us what you think by leaving a review.